Arsenal played a 4-2-3-1 with Ramsdale in goal, a back four of White, Saliba, Gabriel and Zinchenko, a double pivot of Thomas Partey and Xhaka. They had three players behind the striker: Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli, and they were spearheaded by Gabriel Jesus. Chelsea played a 4-4-2 with Mendy in goal and a back four of James, Trevor Chalobah, Thiago Silva and Emerson. A midfield four of Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, Jorginho and Raheem Sterling, and a German front two of Havertz and Timo Werner. The first half will have two parts. Part one will be before the drinks break and part two will be after the drinks break. From the start, Arsenal had real intensity. Within 3 minutes, there was a clash. Maybe more of a citizen's arrest as Sterling tackled Gabriel Jesus out of the field. That moment set the tone of the game. The most telling moment that Arsenal was going to outplay Chelsea happened again in the first 3 minutes, when Thiago Silva, of all people, committed a foul. A pattern started to emerge. Gunners would play on one side of the field, attracting the Blues to that side, and then switching the play to the other side. The same way Man City played PSG. Just like Man City, the player that received majority of these balls was their right winger, Saka. This would start chains of events that will totally chain the Chelsea defense together. Chelsea struggled so much to play out of their own half. Gunners pressed them like crazy. Their central midfielders just could not find each other. Jorginho would get the ball in his register position. When he tries to advance the ball, he would struggle to find any available man in an advanced position. Whilst processing that, the Gunners would steal the ball off him, or when he was afforded time, he would pass the ball back to the central defenders. After Gabriel Jesus' goal, Arsenal players were buzzing and every player wanted the ball. One of the interesting things about how they were set up was that White was playing as a right back, but he wouldn't overlap Saka, but rather stuck inside and play as a third CDM. That meant Saka had the whole right flank to himself. After the drinks break, Arsenal returned in the same formation. Chelsea changed the formation to a 4-3-3. And the change in the midfield is that Mount joined Jorginho and Gallagher. And up front they had from right to left Sterling, Havertz and Timo Werner. After the drinks break, Thomas Tuchel addressed the problem Chelsea had of not being able to play through midfield by changing the formation from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3, with Mount joining Gallagher and Jorginho in midfield. Havertz was flanked by Sterling and Werner. That change, in theory, would have worked, but the execution of it was below par. With Chelsea still trying to figure out the ABCs of the formation, Arsenal struck through Odegaard with an assist by Martinelli. Mendy's ball distribution was very suspect in this half as he kept inviting pressure on himself. Another Chelsea player that just couldn't distribute the ball to save his life was Emerson. He would be pressed near the touchline, and that would trigger the same unsuccessful act from him of just booting the ball upfield. There was two pieces of brilliance from Chelsea in the first half though. First was when James decided to take the game to Arsenal by running behind the defense and putting in an inch perfect cross across the face of goal. But unfortunately, Havertz couldn't reach it, and Sterling bumped into an Arsenal defender when chasing the ball. The last action of play was the second piece of brilliance from none other than the reigning two-time Chelsea Player of the Year, Mason Mount. Raheem Sterling had the ball in the right wing. He stopped near the corner of the box. He laid a lovely ball for Mason Mount, who in return hit it with so much power with his inner toe, but through to Chelsea's unfortunes in this half, it hit the outside post and went out of play. This half was all Gunners. I rate their performance a 10 out of 10, and I rate Chelsea's performance a measly 3 out of 10. Arsenal made one change to begin the second half. Tavares for Zinchenko. Chelsea made 4 changes, namely Azpilicueta for Sterling, Kovacic for Gallagher, Alonso for Emerson, Pulisic for Timo Werner, plus the change they made before halftime of Sarr for Chalobah. This meant Chelsea switched to their more favoured 3-4-3 formation, with Azpilicueta joining Silva and Sarr at the back, a midfield 4 of James, Jorginho, Kovacic and Alonso, and a front 3 of Mount, Havertz and Pulisic. You could immediately see the difference in the Chelsea performance. In their familiar formation, they dominated the game possession-wise for the entire second half. They kept the ball for such long period of time, people would falsely believe that Arsenal was still recovering from their energetic first half. But that would be inaccurate because a Chelsea versus Arsenal game since Tuchel came to Chelsea has gone down like this each and every time. Chelsea dominates the possession for a long period of time. This result in Arsenal having to adapt to a counter-attacking football, which they did here once again. In terms of the end product, Chelsea was still as blunt as the first half. Chelsea was shockingly error-prone in their trusted formation, with the goals coming from individual and collective errors, when no player was alert to any danger. I rate Arsenal's performance an 8 out of 10 because they were disciplined and patient, which resulted in them scoring 2 goals. I rate Chelsea's performance a 5 out of 10. They had an improvement from the first half, but their defensive performance was just too awful to ignore. Gabriel Jesus' goal came in the 15th minute. Arsenal was on the attack. Chalobah intercepted a through ball that was meant for Gabriel Jesus. He immediately toe-poked the ball to Mount. Unfortunately, because he didn't have the needed control of the ball, it missed its intended target and went straight to Xhaka. He wasted no time and passed to Gabriel, who was left on his own when Chalobah intercepted the previous pass. With all that space afforded to him, he immediately went straight to goal. Thiago Silva tried to close the gap as Mendy rushed towards Gabriel Jesus to narrow the goal. Jesus kept his composure and lobbed the ball for a finish of a confident striker. Martin Odegaard scored in the 36th minute. The ball found its way to Martinelli's feet. He ran towards the defense. When he saw that the space for him to operate was closed, he did what all Brazilian forwards are known for. He twisted and turned. This literally put a spell to the entire Chelsea defense because Odegaard just ran behind about 2 or 3 Chelsea players towards the box. This immediately prompted the now stationary Martinelli to release the ball to Odegaard, who didn't think twice before slotting the ball home. 2-0 Gunners. Bukayo Saka scored his goal in the 66th minute. After Mendy saved a shot by parrying it to the left section of his box, it fell to an Arsenal player. The ball was threaded through and found Saka in the box. Once again, a free Arsenal player in the Chelsea box. He didn't mess about and slotted the ball past Mendy. Sambi Lokonga scored his goal in the 92nd minute. At this point, Chelsea are deflated. Koulibaly, after noticing that he was the only defender up for it, goes to the left-back position to win a ball. Before he arrives, Cedric puts in a floating cross, which found another Arsenal player free in the box. Sambi Lokonga scores and celebrates like he just won Arsenal a cup, which is understandable because, after all, this was and is a London derby.